Hello, and welcome to the Telltale podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Goldsmith, and today I'm here with the lovely Luka. Welcome to the podcast, Luka. Today, we're going to be talking all about Luka's story and also about More Than This, which is the show that Luka co-created with Olivia. So again, thank you for joining me, Luka, and I'm excited to hear more about your story.
Thank you for having me here.
All right. So, firstly, we're just going to dive right in. I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Who are you for anyone that doesn't know? What are your interests, passions, hobbies, or anything else that you feel people should know about you?
Well, I'm Luka Gracie. My pronouns are they, them. And I am a creator. I am a writer. I am an actor, all around just really creative person. As well as acting and writing, I love drawing and I'm an animator. I like to do animation and little cartoons. I don't know if you can see, but I've got a bunch of Disney and Pixar stuff around my room. So I'm quite obsessed with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm all around a really creative person. I love music as well. And yeah, just telling stories. I think telling stories is just one of my biggest passions.
Yeah, and you're such a vibrant person and a vibrant energy and soul, which I think really comes through as well through your character, which we'll get to a little bit more later. But how did you first get into acting and filmmaking? Because, I feel like you've been doing it for quite a while and this is probably one of your biggest projects, but I'm really interested to know how you first got into it.
Well, I grew up around sets and theatre because my dad is the director. So I think one of the first times I was ever on set, I was about like 2.5, and I was an extra in one of my dad's films. I don't remember it, but like I watched the movie back and it's like me with fairy wings or something in the background. Um, but no, I grew up um, kind of doing that kind of stuff. I was really shy as a kid though. But when I hit like around teenage age, I started auditioning, and I had, until More Than This, I hadn't really gotten anything because it's really hard for like someone. I looked very visibly queer since I was like 13. So it was really hard for me to get roles. Could have been my talent though, but I grew and I was very naive. So yeah, and filmmaking, I've just always loved storytelling. And um during schools, I always film everything, and I love just editing and writing stories. And yeah, that's kind of just grown into More Than This and doing that with Olivia, who I've known since birth. So yeah, we grew up in this big creative space, and yeah, just kind of I've really come into myself creatively while growing up.
Yeah, and I think that's such a beautiful story as well. And in terms of, not really getting those roles early on, I think that's a great part of More Than This is that you were able to create a project where you were able to be the representation and include a lot of representation that you probably would have wanted to see back in the day. So that's so important. And I think it's really important to keep creating, I think, roles that are inclusive of queer people in the queer community. So yeah, again, kudos to you for that because it was really beautiful to see.
Yeah. So, yeah, one of our main goals was just for people to be seen, and I think we achieved somewhat.
Definitely. And especially in like Australian media and the landscape, that's definitely a big kind of thing that needs to be pushed. So it's a great step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, you and Olivia, as you said, have known each other since birth. And so creating this project together would have been so much fun. How was that like for you personally? Because I know Olivia had a lot of fun with it, but yeah, for
Yeah.
you.
Um, I think Olivia and I are very different, both in personality, but we're also quite the same as the way we think and our creativity. When she first came to me with the idea of More Than This, it was 2019. We we're both in year 11. And I think my thought was like, oh, this is just going to be a little thing. It'll be a little thing. It'll be a fun thing that we're going to do on the weekends or something. But no, it ended up being a Paramount Plus original. So things evolve that way. Um, but yeah, I had so much fun, especially like during the creation of it, but during filming as well. I think just going to work every day and just like being there with my best friend and all these friends that I met along the way as well. Like we're all such a little family. It was just great. And it's so much fun. It was probably the most fun I've ever had, really.
For
Yeah.
sure. And it seemed like as well on set, like the vibe was really great. The energy just from BTS that I've seen. Of course, I can't like really know because I wasn't there, but I get the energy was really, really inclusive and creative and fun and amazing. So it's really cool that you were able to create that as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, besides kind of working with Olivia and so forth, what was your personal experience co-creating this project more than this? And how do you feel that like some of your own prior experiences influence potentially the way that you molded the characters and the narrative that was presented?
I think, I mean, I took, especially for my character Jamie, I like to describe Jamie as me when I was 15, before I found my tribe, before I got a little bit more confident. So a lot of Jamie is a lot of me. But like, now I'm a bit more confident and I'm kind of past that stage in my life. But yeah, I think the whole kind of story of Jamie at first not really having, I mean, I had friends, but I didn't really have like my tribe. I didn't have a lot of queer people at school. And I think I was kind of putting in like, oh, I wish this happened to me. I wish I had I loved my friends from school, don't get me wrong, but I kind of wrote in like, Jamie needs to find their tribe. And that's what I wish I had at that age. But yeah, with all the characters like Zali as well, some of that experience is there. I had a bit of a depresso teenage life. But I think that's a lot of that's part of growing up, but also like as a queer person as well. It's a bit hard. I went to an all-girls school as a trans person. So that was kind of yeah, not great. But they were very supportive though. But yeah, creating these characters and just putting so much kind of personal attributes into them as well. Like Jamie has quite low confidence and is very shy, and I was like that. And the whole thing with like that responsibility that Jamie has when they get home and looking after their brother, I didn't have that. Like I'm very much still a kid. I barely have much responsibility, but I feel like that was just something that was, maybe fun's not the right word, but something interesting, something new to try out. So like the character wasn't exactly like me. But yeah, I think a lot of our characters are very specific to who they are. And a lot of what the characters go through are just like authentic to what teenagers go through in real life. And I think, yeah, we achieved the authenticity of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like you can kind of resonate with every character on a different level. Even if your story isn't exactly like theirs, I think there's a lot of common threads, like, the awkward phase of teenage life where you feel like you don't know where you fit in, or, even just the experience of dealing with, mental health issues and so forth. Which is really, really nice. And it's nice to have those characters that are actually dealing with things that are, yeah, authentic. Because I think as well, like, shows like I feel Euphoria even sometimes dramatize the issues to the point where it's like not realistic anymore, and it doesn't feel like you're actually watching teenagers. It feels like you're watching, I mean, it is a show, but it just feels very dramatic, you know what trying to say. But yeah, that was something that I think more than this really brought to the table, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I think we all look like teenagers as well.
Yeah, which is a good thing. It's really cool
Yes.
to see, finally. And I mean, in what way do you believe that more than this kind of lives up to that authentic Australian experience that it seeks to promote? I mean, we touched on it a little bit just then, but if you could expand on the ways that you wanted to try and make it as authentic as possible.
Yeah, well, I think the um all of, as I said before, all of our characters are quite specific to who they are. You can't like we didn't have the intention of like having those stereotypical like here's a jock, here's a nerd. Like those are just so, one, that's very American, and two, that's very like, you know, stereotypical, and it's not like that in real life. It's not authentic. You There is an argument that you could push the characters into a box. Like Jamie could be the shy artist, but like that's like there's also a lot of other things about Jamie that's not just that. Um, and I think it came down to casting as well. I think every actor gave that authenticity and really came into the character like the character could just be a person in real life that you walk past on the street. And, you know, I look at a lot of the characters and I go, I know someone like that. And that, you know, that looks like my friend, or, yes, certain things like that. Like the characters are very just themselves and real. And that was our aim for the authenticity. And yeah, for it comes down to the writing, the casting, and, you know, the acting from those actors. That, yeah, it's just any of our characters could be someone from real life.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I felt like they were very 3D as well, the way that you were saying. They don't really fit into a box. And I think, yeah, as you said, they could kind of, I guess, jeer towards them at times, but they still have so many other elements to them. Like, yeah, like you have, like, I guess, the cool popular characters, but then they also have really human aspects to them that aren't just like these mean kind of like, you know, ruling over everyone, you know, kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's not like a Regina George, like evil, like kind of thing. And then like with your character and Olivia's character, Charlotte, as well, like I loved the part of the show where she was like, what did she say? She said, I'm not any one kind of thing. I think it was something along
Yeah,
those.
I'm more than one specific thing.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the that's the right. Yeah, and I love that because I think it's so true. And I think it's so true for so many people that are teenagers and they go through things, they're represented in some way in front of like the public or the, I mean, the front view, but behind there's so much more going on behind the scenes, which really resonates or kind of aligns with the more than this theme of the show. So yeah.
I think, yeah, that like that's true for all of the characters, like not just Charlotte, but I think that's
Yeah.
for the characters as well. And there's that like really critical thing of like queer characters are just queer. But
Mm.
in our show, they're much, much more than
More
that.
than queer.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And they deal with a lot of other issues.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just focused on, you know, the queer kind of issues that I guess we've dealt with in the past. But it also gets past that and looks at, you know, the human experience of everything that you're going through, which is really important as well. And so, yeah, how important was it for you to incorporate the diversity that kind of decorates this project? Because it's so beautiful to see so much representation, in particular, the representation of the queer teen experience that we've touched on a little bit again. But I'd love for you to expand on that more if you have anything else to share.
Yeah. Well, I think with our queer characters, as I said, like they're more than just one specific thing. And I mean, especially, you know, with our show, the queer characters, their storylines aren't to do with them being queer. It's just who they are. And that's very true to real life as well. Like we do go through those things like coming out and stuff like that, but we've seen that all before. Not a lot. I'm not saying that like there's so many movies where that happens. That's a few, but it's we need more stories where we don't show the darkness of being queer, and then it could be just joyful, and there's other things that are dark in a teenager's life, but being queer is not one of them. And I think with the diversity of the characters, we weren't like checklisting. We weren't going, okay, we need this kind of person, we need this kind of person. It just fell into like these are people, these are real people. And when I created Jamie as well, it was I hadn't even come out to my parents yet as non-binary. Like it was just before. And I was really worried about that because I was like, what if I create this character and then I just don't come out? But then it ended up happening. And then Jamie moved to being non-binary. So yeah, it wasn't a lot of the diversity while we went in going like, this needs to be diverse because that reflects Melbourne, that reflects Australia. But yeah, we didn't have like a checklist going like, we need like a South Asian person. We like, it's just diversity, and it's true diversity because it's natural. Yeah, that's I think that made sense.
Yeah, no, it did definitely. And I think as well, like a lot of I feel shows kind of opt for that tokenism, and they choose and they characterize these characters in a certain way. And so the fact that it was really fluid in the kind of casting and the direction was is really awesome and important, I think, in breaking down a lot of the barriers. Because I feel like tokenism in itself, even though sometimes the intent isn't, negative in the way that they want to include more people, but in itself, it kind of just makes it more like you're singling out people, and you're making that kind of like
Yeah.
the issue or the focus. And so I think just making it fluid and natural means that that equality is kind of reached in a respect, which is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as well, like the diversity of it is our intention wasn't, the checklist kind of thing that a lot of shows have. It was that we really wanted people to feel seen. And I think with a lot of the characters though, like with the queer characters and the people of color, it, you don't have to be queer to resonate with Jamie, because I think anyone can have a crush on someone that doesn't like them back, or anyone can have that family dynamic that Jamie has. And yeah, I think it was really important that anyone can relate to any character, no matter who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like even, straight media, the way that it's been kind of, I guess, the narrative for in a lot of shows and so forth, like queer people can still resonate with that. And the same with, queer stories being represented, straight people can resonate with that. It doesn't really matter what kind of sexuality or gender that you relate to. I think it's just the human experience essentially, and there's something that we can always learn from everything, which is important. And even the diversity, I think, will educate a lot of people, which is really important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, as well, because I'm mixed, but I look completely white. My mum is Sri Lankan. So it's kind of like that's hidden diversity because I'm so white passing. But like I, as a person, can look up there and be like, oh my God, that's a mixed person. And I think that's pretty cool. It's like a little inside thing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I actually didn't know that. And I'm mixed too. So I love seeing mixed representations. That's really, really cool. And I guess as well, like I feel like the mixed experience, you're always kind of bouncing between two identities as well, in a
Yeah.
respect. So yeah, there's just a lot of culture and identity kind of just buried in this piece, which is really amazing. But what has it been like for you? I mean, we talked about this a little bit off camera, but receiving so many incredible reviews and reports and responses on the show so far.
Yeah, it's been crazy, really. It's been 2 days, and I've gotten quite a few messages saying that they feel really connected to the show, and that they haven't felt like that towards the show in a very long time, and that it's great to see representation where, you know, the reason why it's representation, like who they represent, isn't the main plot of who they are. And yeah, it's been great, and it's relieved, like I'm relieved that people like the show. And it's great because I'm like connecting with all sorts of people as well who are messaging me and talking to them about it, and it's starting conversations. And people from my old high school are like messaging me and going like, Luka, you did such a great job, I love the show. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Like I haven't heard from you in like 2 years, but like thank you so much. And I think that's great. It brings a smile to my face, that so many people like it, and the range of people who like it as well. Like I know adults who really like the show, and then I know people our age who like the show. And yeah, I think it's so watchable. And I think even though it's for teenagers or for young people, I think a lot of people, like different kinds of humans, are watching the show and liking it, which is great because it brings understanding as well, like how they use they them pronouns so naturally in the show. And I'm so happy that in like reviews and everything, that like that they're not making any mistakes and they're using they them pronouns for me and for Jamie, my character, which is fantastic.
And it's so groundbreaking, but it really shouldn't be. It should be the norm.
Yeah.
But it's good that, like, again, making that right step in the kind of right direction. And I think a lot of new shows are going to be looking at yours, towards yours, and kind of drawing inspiration in terms of celebrating that diversity and making it a normal thing, which is really, again, important. And there's so many important things that you kind of delve into throughout the show. And I'm really interested as well to know, in terms of the responses that you've gotten back, have there been any that have made you kind of reflect on the show, or maybe kind of you know, influence the kind of decisions and creative direction that you take in the future, in any, you know, future projects that you decide to work with?
I think like one of the cool things I'm getting out of this like feedback is that people really want to see something different, and it's refreshing to see something different. And I think more than this shows that I think it's something different. I've never really seen anything in Australia like it. Like when the trailer came out, a lot of people were going like, "Oh, Aussie Euphoria," but then they watch it and they're like, "Oh no, this isn't like Euphoria. It's real and it's not as intense as Euphoria, but we tackle those dark themes in a more less glorifying way." And I'm not I like Euphoria. I do like it as a show. I think it's a beautiful show. But you know, it's pleasing to the eyes, not so much pleasing to the brain. And I think our show starts conversations in a way that is um like it's watchable, and it's just it's calmer, and yeah, I think it's just great, because I get really anxious when I watch Euphoria. I don't get anxious when I watch More Than This. I mean, I kind of do, because I'm like, oh, it's my face, but it's relaxing. It's kind of relaxing in a way how we tackle and those problems that our characters have.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Euphoria can be really, really confronting at times. And like your heart's beating like 20, like 200, like 200 beats per minute. It's insane. But I feel like More Than This tackles it in a way that's realistic again. And because it's like, because you can resonate with it, I feel like that's why those conversations are happening, because it feels like it's real, and you can apply it to your own life. Whereas I feel like with Euphoria, sometimes it kind of gets lost in the glamorization and the beautiful visuals, and so the meaning and the message gets distorted.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like with More Than This, you know, it's still kind of the focus of the show, you know. And while there's some beautiful visual like elements in the show as well, and some great direction, which I absolutely adored, the message is still at the forefront, which is really, really good.
Yeah. I think as well for Euphoria is that all the characters in Euphoria are they're flawed characters, and they are in More Than This, we're flawed characters as well. But you like the characters in More Than This. A lot of the characters in Euphoria, people are hating on so much just because they do bad things. But in More Than This, a lot of our characters do not so great things, but we have that level of likability, that you know everyone people make mistakes and people do bad things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person unless you go to like an extreme. But you know, all the things that these characters do are mistakes that teenagers will face, and that they'll get through it one day.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And I think it's important to have that human element of any character that you create, which is really a testament to the great kind of molding of those characters by you and Olivia. But I'm really interested as well to know, you know, for those who haven't watched the show yet, how do you hope to impact audiences through it? And what would you really like them to leave with as one of the kind of main themes, or main kind of several themes, or messages?
I think that that really big one, that everyone is not just one specific thing, and that sometimes we don't have control over our own brain. Sometimes we do things that we ourselves don't understand, and that you know being a teenager is such a weird time in our lives, that it's, you know, I think for people who aren't teenagers who watch it will have a level of understanding about teenagers and know that they're just as smart as anyone else. Like as teenagers, we have opinions, we have formed opinions, and I think people need to listen to young people more as a whole. Because look, we're Olivia and I young people, and like we made a show together, and that's a good show, in fact, not just something we filmed on an iPhone that I mean, I've done those before, and some of those I made a short film for my like year 11 art class, and I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, that's not great. But you do that and you grow from mistakes, and I think, yeah, people will learn that from our characters. But I also think that, yeah, starting conversations as well, like the conversation of self-harm, or like a disability like epilepsy and stuff, like being lonely, because I think being lonely is such a, like, I don't want to say underrated, that sounds very strange, but I feel like people don't talk about being lonely as much, um because people just go, oh, you're just lonely, just call a friend. But it's really hard to go and call that friend if you feel lonely, because I know that for my character Jamie, because they're quite shy, they wouldn't just do that. And I feel like a lot of people are like that, socially anxious, that even if they are lonely, they can't reach out. But thankfully that Jamie meets Zali, and Zali brings them to that. But yeah, starting those conversations, and I think seeing yourselves on screen as well is what I hope people come away from watching the show.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well with the more than this kind of theme throughout that runs throughout the show, I feel like a lot of audiences will take away that kind of message and apply it to the way that they view people around them, which is really important. I think just in terms of that that kindness and that empathy that I feel like sometimes we lose occasionally. And especially with social media, I feel like people are sometimes desensitized and they don't really see that a lot of people are going through things, but even if they're smiling or happy on the surface or at school, like some of the characters are, there's a lot more going on at home and behind the scenes that needs to be taken into consideration. So I think that's a really important message that you guys have brought to the table. So yeah, amazing. And finally, my last kind of planned question for you is, what are your plans for the future personally? Because I'm interested in you, Luka, and what would you like to continue doing, like growing within the filmmaking space, or would you like to kind of dabble in other creative ventures because you're a very creative person? So I'd love to know, what your kind of hopes for the future are.
I think I'm in uni, so to graduate university, and I'm doing film and television, so I will end up in that realm anyway. But just to keep creating art, and I've written a few scripts for other projects as well that I hope gets made. And I think, like, I've always grown up with like so many different dreams, and they all connect to storytelling. So yeah, I think I'm just going to continue to just tell my story and my characters' stories, and just keep creating, because that's always been an outlet for me. um and yeah, I think maybe I'll go and do some theater, which I miss theater so much, because I haven't done it since high school, and I just miss it a lot. And maybe one day I'll animate something, or I'll go and direct an animated film, which is one of my dreams. I used to have this huge dream of like working at Pixar or something like that. um but yeah, I just see where life takes me. And just follow dreams. Whatever dream I have at that point in time, I'll just go and follow it, which I think is a great message as well for anyone, to just follow your dreams.
Definitely. And I think as well, in terms of life in general, like it takes you in so many different directions. Like the way that it just kind of took you towards creating this project with Olivia, I think the same kind of thing will happen for you in future and everything else that you look to create. And I think that this is such a great, you know, I guess project for you in terms of your portfolio and everything. And I think it just really gets to showcase your ability and your talents, you know. So yeah, again, congratulations, Luka. I'm so grateful to have had you on and to have been able to share some of your story and some of your experiences creating this project. Yeah, it was just incredible, and I loved talking to you today. So thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. I really liked it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to see everything you do in future, and maybe we can get you on again soon when you're on another creative venture or you're continuing on this one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.